We begin the bulletin with some breaking news coming in, viewers, this time from Canada, where country's intelligence agency has flagged Canada-based Khalistani extremists as an ongoing national security concern. And this is in its 2025 public report tabled in Parliament. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service, or CSIS, says these elements continue to promote a violent extremist agenda. The report notes that their activities pose a threat to Canada and Canadian interests. Well, the report also says no attacks linked to such elements were recorded in Canada last year. However, it identifies a small group of individuals using Canada as a base to promote, fundraise, or even plan violence, primarily targeting India. Now, in a first, CSIS publicly used the term Canada-based Khalistani extremist in this context. The agency also drew a clear distinction between violent extremism and peaceful political advocacy for Khalistan. CSIS classified these elements under politically motivated violent extremism. To talk about this, it is a category that involves encouraging violence to establish new political systems or reshape the existing ones. Well, breaking news coming in from Canada, viewers. The country's intelligence agency has flagged Canada-based Khalistani extremists as an ongoing national security concern. The report notes that their activities pose a threat to Canada and Canadian interests. The report also says that no attacks linked to such elements were recorded in Canada last year. However, it identifies a small group of individuals using Canada as a base to promote, fundraise, or plan violence, primarily targeting India. We also know that this is the first time CSIS has publicly used the term Canada-based Khalistani extremist in this context. The agency also drew a clear distinction between violent extremism and peaceful political advocacy for Khalistan. CSIS classified these elements under politically motivated violent extremism. Well, we get more on this from our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs as he joins us on the phone line. Siddhant, Canada's intelligence report flags Khalistani-linked groups as a security concern. What more can you tell us about this from India's standpoint?
Well, the report is significant for a simple fact that it is an acknowledgement by the Canadian side that Khalistani extremism poses a threat to national security. In the past, there have been references as well terming Khalistani activities as extremism, but this is the most vocal mention by the intelligence agency, the CSIS. Now, of course, it pointed out as to how Khalistani extremists have linkages in the society and essentially how they have been promoting violent extremist agenda. It also highlighted the 1985 Air India flight bombing, in which many of those who died were Canadian nationals, and it is the worst terrorist attack in Canadian history. Now, this comes at a time when India and Canada, of course, have been engaging on security matters. The Indian NSA, Ajit Doval, was in Canada. We know that in February 2026, and he met his Canadian counterpart. The focus of the meet was to make sure that both sides have a channel of communication on dealing with counterterrorism. India highlighted its concerns on Khalistani extremism. And of course, the focus remains for India is that the Canadian action on Khalistani extremism is needed not only for India, but also for Canada itself.
Siddhant, looking ahead, what does this mean for the trajectory of India-Canada relationship?
Well, India and Canada have been picking up relationship in past few years. We know that the Indian Prime Minister has been to Canada. He was invited by the Canadian Prime Minister. The Canadian Prime Minister was in India just a few months ago. And essentially that visit was seen as important in terms of giving direction to the relationship. There was a uranium deal as well. There is focus on a trade deal as well, which could be announced very soon once the negotiations are over. Of course, the negotiations are still underway. There are a lot of low-hanging fruits in the relationship, but the fact that both sides agree to establish security and law enforcement way communication with appointment of liaison officers shows that there is a will from two sides to have conversation on security matters, including India's concerns on Khalistani extremism.
Siddhant, I'd like to go back to the report. Canada also mentions foreign interference involving India. How is New Delhi likely to respond to that?
Well, essentially that comment which has been mentioned says that Canada must remain alert to activities of Khalistani supporters. The essential gist of that comment is the fact that India's involvement is seen, given the fact that there is Khalistani extremism, which India sees a threat to its national security. It is seen in that lens. Of course, there has been mention of India in this specific characterization, but India has dismissed India's involvement in any such action, including, of course, the killing of Niger, who is a listed terrorist here in India. So essentially, yes, there is a mention, but I would overall say that the fact that the Canadian side is acknowledging Khalistani extremists as a threat to their own national security is a big development.
Thank you, Siddhant, for getting us these insights on Canada's intelligence agency report, especially from India's perspective. Thank you for joining us.